How and why did India lose the 1962 war against China? Well, how did we lose this war? So it all began in the 1950s. In the 1950s, what happened was that the Chinese, they invaded Tibet, right? Tibet was until then a sovereign and independent nation, a Buddhist nation, a Dharmic nation. The Chinese under Mao Zedong invaded Tibet. And they would not have succeeded in the invasion because Tibet is an enormous territory. It's a huge territory. Let me show you. See this entire region here. If you can see my mouse pointer, this entire region here essentially is Tibet. It's a very large territory. So the Chinese in the 1950s, I think in 55 was it? Yeah. They invaded Tibet and they started starving. They were so far away from actual China, and the supplies were disrupted, etc., and they were starving. The Chinese soldiers were starving. The People's Liberation Army soldiers were starving, and their invasion of Tibet was going to fail. And what happened is that our magnanimous and magnificent Prime Minister Shri Jawaharlal Nehru ji supplied them with rice so that they could complete their invasion of Tibet. So the Tibet invasion succeeded because our Prime Minister Shri Nehru ji supplied the People's Liberation Army soldiers with rice, lots and lots of rice from Assam, etc. That's point number one. So the Chinese then, for the first time in 3 to 4,000 years of history, became actual neighbors of India. Until that time, there was no India-China border. It was just the India-Tibet border. But then the Chinese invaded and occupied Tibet. They annexed it and made it part of their country. And then the India-Tibet border became the India-China border. The India-Tibet border was never properly defined because India was under the British Raj, and the British Raj was an illegitimate foreign occupier of India. Now, in the 1950s, again, what happened was that the Chinese started constructing a road in Aksai Chin, which is a part of India. They started constructing a road after annexing Tibet. And for years, Mr. Nehru was unaware about this. When he came to know about this, he said, doesn't matter. There is not even a blade of grass grows there. So let them have it. This huge piece of Indian territory, let the Chinese have it. So that's point number two. First, the Chinese should never have been in Tibet. Mr. Nehru brought them there. Secondly, he gave up on Aksai Chin without firing a single bullet. Thirdly, Mr. Nehru neglected the Indian army. The Indian army did not have proper supplies. They did not have proper ammunition. They did not even have proper winter clothing, alpine clothing, which you need to, the warm clothing that you need to wear when you fight in the Himalayas, where the temperatures can go down to -20, -30 degrees. Right? The Indian soldiers did not have proper equipment and proper clothing suitable for that sort of climate. And they did not have ammunition, etc. So the morale was down, and so on and so forth. These are many of the reasons why India eventually lost the 1962 war. And also, when the 1962 war happened, Mr. Nehru, for some reason, refused to allow the Indian Air Force to strike at the Chinese positions. He refused to allow the Indian Air Force to participate in the war. So the Indian soldiers were fighting the Chinese without any air support. Why would he do such a thing? I don't have any answers for that. So these are some of the reasons why India lost the 1962 war against China. It is all thanks to the great Shri Nehru ji.